Little Towns Lost Between Two Cities. Road Trip from Las Vegas to Reno by Leinani. Perfect beginning. I love the sky. It's just grabbing us and pulling us in. So as we look through this, one of the things I really like is how she laid everything out. It was chronological from start to finish. I love the addition of this map, giving us a clue as to how long her journey was going to take, and then into some images. So I really like how we're looking at these images full screen. And then as we scroll, little bits of info is popping up in boxes that scroll up over the image. And she's talking about this bicyclist caught on the corner of the frame, and then a common sight along the route, so all of the trucks. So starting off informative, here we are moving through. Once again, a full image. I love this image. And then she starts to break it down. 1 hour and 45 minutes along our route is Beatty, Nevada. And she goes on to tell us about the population, when it was established, what kind of mining district was there, and then Beatty was named after its first postmaster. So a lot of research was done to create this Spark page, and it's used very well. So we're seeing the campers and trailers, and then to the largest candy store in Nevada. Treats for everyone. And then some shots within it. So the overall view and what happens when you get inside. In Beatty. And then another full image. I love how she's including signs on all these little towns as they go through them. Another hour goes by as we drive by a privately owned ghost town in Springdale, Nevada. Similar to the town of Beatty, this former railroad town, which is now a ghost town, started in 1906. The Bullfrog Goldfield Railroad. That's hard to say. We also pass burros, or donkeys, in what looks like a fertile desert plain. This was the only place I saw these animals. And then an uncommon sight along the route. Informative, well laid out. Leinani has a great sense of composition in her work. 3 hours and 20 minutes out, we're halfway to Reno. And then she goes on to talk about these little spots along the way. The Green Parrot Saloon, the Dinky Diner, was rated as the worst food on US 95 according to a disappointed traveler. And I love how she included a link here to the TripAdvisor review. So you click on that, boom, and it takes you over to the review. So little pop-outs along the way, little links. Shell, yeah, we're still going. Tonopah, so everything has a name in these photographs as we're going through as well. I like the beans and brews. I wonder about that. 3 hours and 45 minutes out, we're driving through the town of Tonopah. Approximately 2,000 people live there. So the drive out and the drive back, she gave us a little flip side of it. Just outside of Tonopah, they find a solar project, and then she finds out what it is and adds that information to the show. Of course, personally, I'm always drawn to this kind of photography. So it's nice to have these stop points. I love the graffiti. So a lot of people just go photograph this little right-hand building with that graffiti there, but really the whole picture is a much greater story. And we're looking about telling stories. What a beautiful photograph. 4 hours into the drive, Coaldale, Nevada, a former mining town. And talks about coal being discovered. Unfortunately, coal wasn't considered a viable enough resource at that time. So, and then some interiors of these buildings that are falling down. 20 minutes outside of Coaldale, another odd sighting along the route. Makes you want to go on a road trip. This one, I'd like to see a little bit more bass. A little bit more ground below the building. It feels a little awkward on that crop. 5 hours into the drive. And yet another railroad town founded in 1905. Ooh, it's populated with 150 people. And then it talks about the Copper Queen, a Nicaraguan woman, and she tells about how much land would cost. And then down here is another link to a webpage about this woman. And then she tells us that 85% of Nevada is federally owned land. A lot went into putting this presentation together. More ghost towns, more descriptive images. The light on this one's really pretty. Discovering a speed trap along the way, so she's talking about the experience of the travel as well as the historical side of things. Things to be careful for when you go on this trip. Incredible image, but then we go on to learn that 5 hours and 45 minutes outside of Hawthorne is Walker Lake. And then she learned that a lethal concentration of total dissolved solids, which means no fish can survive. And then she talks about a rumor that there is an underwater naval warfare facility that stretches 400 miles to the coast of California. So, a little rumor, a little truth, more shots along the way. It keeps us wanting to look because the information isn't the same. It's not just who, what, where, when. It's a little bit of information about some of the people in the town, a little bit of history about the town, and then a rumor or two. Driving through Walker Indian Reservation, home to 650 people, founded in 1891, and it was named after the Secretary of the Interior. I really enjoy this photograph. I love the blur of the base, that billboard that's no longer really functioning as that little outhouse out there in the landscape. In part, a few pieces of this are in focus. So, from the speeding car. 6 hours and 30-minute mark. Oh, this was leftover drive-in movie theater. Buckland Station, 7 hours. Silver Springs, Nevada, home to 4,500 fellow Nevadans. And there's an airport. And you can get a new home for $275,000. A little art along the way. Seven hours and 45 minutes. Our street views contain more greenery as they drive through Sparks, Nevada, close to Reno. And then she's telling us when they're heading back. Some more fantastic scenery shots. Approaching a sandstorm in the sandstorm. Flash flood warning. It's a dangerous drive. An incredible rainbow. And another shot. I like the silhouette here. The sky is intense. Looking back at through the mirror on the car. Thanks for traveling with me on my journey. For more of my work, you can visit my website at. So you guys, go visit Leinani's website. She also told me she added a bunch of Spark pages over there, and I'm going to go check it out as soon as I'm done with this. So, good work. Leinani has 2 reviews this week because her story of place, after she finished it and turned it in, she sent me a note saying that she wanted to go back and add a little bit more. So I said, go for it. So I was waiting till that was done, so that's why it was reviewed this week. So this is what she turned in this week. Local cuisine at Prep and Pastry. And of course she has her name there. So great shot to entice us in. Love the yellow eyeglasses, the lemon over here, and whatever. Oh, orange juice. Okay, so great shot from the outside. You see people waiting. It's clean. It's crisp. It's lively. She tells us it's Saturday morning in July in Tucson, Arizona, and they're visiting with their son. And apparently, Tucsonians love their breakfast and brunch spots. Too many to choose from, but this one had a good review, and happy to see the crowd gathering outside. So then we got the outside shot. We moved to the inside shot. She tells us it took about 20 minutes to get seated. So a nice overview shot of the interior. And she talked about being excited. They got a great table where the light was going to be good to photograph the food. And what a great location. I mean, this place is so photogenic. So here we are looking at the brunch menu, some of the food. And Leinani, is that a little selfie you got going there? Or did someone snap that for you? I love that you included that. It's got a great feel. I love the grouping of the images. So we go from the full image up here to a nice little grouping. And of course, as we click on these, and here we go. And we can click through. Oh, Monte Cristo, yum. So good, so good. Prep and Pastry believes that food should be beautiful. And I indulge myself with a dish called Return of the Mac. Scrambled egg, whites, with spinach mushroom, and all this other yummy stuff. So, very nice. Talks then about what her son had and that her husband jumped in and ate his food before she was able to get a shot. See the dude in the background? And then she goes on to introduce us to Joel, keeping a watchful eye out on patrons. And then, who will gladly return to the restaurant. So this is really nice, clean, simple, but it tells a story from start to finish. It's an experience, and it's an experience you'll remember through these photos. So we're finishing up here looking at John Zeebel's Story of Place. So his Story of Place is Nevada 165. Image number 1. Lots of places I go start out like this. I find a road I have never been on and drive down it to see what's there. This is Nevada 165, off the 95 between Boulder City and Searchlight. So great caption telling us what he likes, what he's doing, where he's going. And then he tells us for caption number 2, there's not a lot of civilization out here. I keep a camera set to monochrome most of the time. I actually shot these in color, but thought they looked better in black and white. I'm using the photo software on my Mac to buff them up a bit, which does a pretty good job overall, but doesn't control contrast so well. So I'm going to show you how to fix your contrast in 2 of these images in a few minutes. So it is possible, okay? And then Main Street, Nelson, Nevada, population 37. And then Nelson, the only roads are people's driveways. So we're kind of going through these. So let's open up some of these and take a look at them. Command O to open into Photoshop. And the contrast on this one looks pretty darn good. Let's go back to number 1. Okay, this one's looking good. I love those tire tracks. This is a classic photograph. I just absolutely adore it. Nice perspective here. Looking good. Main Street, State Route 165. Nice composition. I like how this is framed in on the side. Informational trailers over there to give more of a sense of place. Dip in the road up ahead. So those are looking all really nice. I enjoy a trip like this as well, John. 5. Okay, so this one could use a little bit of a contrast boost. Also, that you were talking about, a little bit more control of that contrast. Now, you go from these black and whites to this kind of sepia toned. I would probably keep them all either sepia or black and white, one or the other. However, I know that you're exploring, you're playing, and trying new things. But when you're putting a whole series together, a lot of times it's nice to be cohesive in the look. Both looks work. I love the grit on this. I love how you're showing us the big view to the smaller view. Love the details. Number 10. Let's see what number 10 says. Another location. This looks like, well, Nelson, because I think that's where you said you were. Yeah, Nelson Main Street. Cool. Quirky place. Great place to go photograph. You've never been out there? I'm glad you made it. Okay, looking good. So you've got nice composition. I probably would have waited for this guy to be out of the picture myself. Personal thing. Only because there weren't a lot of people in other images. Or I would have made him a part of the image. So I would have interacted with him to make it more purposeful. Nicely laid out. And then your final shot. I assume that's you. I love it when I finally get to see pictures of people. So I hope you take a Photoshop class with me coming up. But let's go and look over here at how to make some tweaks to a few of these photos. So I grabbed these two and threw them into my Apple Photos. If I double click on it, it opens up. Let's start with this one. I'm going to come up here to the Edit button. And we've got all of this. So you're right. When you're playing in here, you're not quite getting what you want. However, you can get something. So lightening it up right off helps. And then we can move over here to our black point, pull our black point down. So that's one way to take care of this. I can come over here and say revert to original. Okay, so that's where we started. The other thing I wanted to show you was the curve. So if I pull up on the curve, it makes the image lighter. Okay, you can see it's lighter, lighter, lighter. But I'm not really, by lightening it, the contrast is looking a little better, but I actually want a little more contrast in here. So I can pull down and make an S curve. And I can come in here and tweak this until I get it looking the way I want it to look. Okay? So you can see something like that. And when you look at the curve, I'm within the information. So those peaks are where most of your information is. So pulling up lightens, pulling down darkens, and right now we're creating an S, which is adding contrast. If I created a reverse S curve, it would reduce contrast. Okay? So there's this one. We're going to say done. Now let's grab the next one. We're going to do the same thing. Let's look at this one. We're going to go back to edit. And we're going to try both ways. We're going to come up here to the light. And I'm going to lighten it. Lightening it helps a lot. Then you can just come in here also and play with these individual sliders and see what happens. But a lot of times I'm going to pull down the black point, make it a little bit darker. And it does have a contrast option here, so you can mess with that a little bit, your overall brightness. What you want to be careful of is not having things look gray throughout. So we want to push the contrast so you have whites with detail, and if you have any shadows with detail, go for it. If I wanted shadow with detail, it would lose the impact here. So I could come into shadows and just keep tweaking this, but it's not going to help, okay? So let's dial that back in. Okay, so that's one method. And up here in the top, you can also click here to see before and after to see what we've done. But I'm going to revert back to original again. And I'm going to come back down here to the curve one more time. So I'm going to pull up to lighten. And I'm going to pull down to darken. And you can see as I move it around, I'm thinking that's looking pretty good. If it feels a little too much, we'll pull that white point down. And there you go. So the top is the white, the bottom is the black. The right is the white, the left is the black. And there we go. So have fun, give curves or play with the light option a little bit. I love your ending here. If you want to read the sign, you have to go there. Sorry. Okay, so that's a nice way to finish it. Good job, John. Keep practicing with your edits. Your images are looking good. You have a nice sense of composition. And keep exploring.